speed.
Dictates that I am to statistics state, theoretical evidence dictates that I am to be high or dead right now. And the fact that I'm not is A, miraculous, equaling a miracle, and B, it defies logic. May 25th, 2015, I found myself at a position in life where the pain became so fucking great that for the first time in my life, I was willing to do anything that was suggested in order to get myself out of the position that I, Brandon Knovak, had continuously created for myself. May 25th, 2015, I found myself in a position in life where I was divinely inconvenienced in just such a manner that the God of my understanding showed up and created just a big enough gap between me and the last speedball that I stuck into my arm to allow me to have a moment of clarity to see what my life really looked like was. And at that moment, on that time, in that day, for the first time in my life, I was no longer accepting of the outcome that I continuously created for myself. May 25th, 2015, I was walking into my 13th inpatient treatment center. I had lost count of outpatients and detoxes. My mother had bought me a plot. People had begun to take life insurance policies out on me. May 24th, 2015, the day before that I walked into that 13th inpatient treatment center, I found myself coming to after being on life support for 7 days at Mercy Hospital in Baltimore City. The very same hospital that my mother is a nuclear physicist on the board of. So my family reunion would look like sometimes 2 or 3 times in a month, sometimes once a month, sometimes once every 4 months, my mother would get a call in her department, which was nuclear medicine, and they'd say, "Hey, Pat, Brandon's back. Hey, Pat, Brandon's back." My mother had sold 3 homes to financially pay for me to go to 2 different treatment centers. I had been medevaced to 4 different hospitals in 4 different states with 4 different overdoses. In the beginning of my alcoholism, my mother, she used to get on her knees. She used to get on her knees and pray to God, "Please, God, do not let tonight be the night that I receive that call. Please don't let tonight be the night that I receive that call that my son has succumbed to his addiction. He's no longer with us. Please don't let tonight be the night." So at the end of my run, a 38-year-old homeless heroin addict wants to kill himself on a daily basis. I just don't want to fucking hurt myself in the process. Terrible truth, I'd be like, keep waking up. At a position in life where I'm so low, the curve looks like a skyscraper. My mother, God bless her soul, my mother gets on her very same knees and she prays to the very same God. "Please, God, please let tonight be the night that I finally receive that call. Please, God, let tonight be the night that I finally receive that call that my son has finally overdosed and succumbed to his addiction, just so I can know he's finally safe once and for all." How the fuck did I get here? Even saying it today still sounds like a completely foreign entity coming out of my mouth, and I've repeated that a lot of times, but how the fuck did I get here? Because I don't know about any of you fine ladies and gentlemen, but I had goals, I had dreams, I had aspirations, I had ambitions. I was going to be somebody. But the sad reality is the disease of addiction does not discriminate. From Yale or jail, the outhouse to the White House. 1 out of 3 people will be affected directly or indirectly. Today in the nation, 178 people will die as a direct result of an opioid overdose. My mother's a nuclear physicist. My brother is an attorney who works in the White House that practices pensions and benefits. My father taught me one thing in life: if and when I go to prison, how to conduct myself. Never held a job a day in his life. He ran with the Hells Angels, rather unsavory kind of fellow, if you will. He acquired the liking of crack cocaine. His body shut down. He's no longer with us. Right, so I live with that after school special. I live with that cautionary tale of what an addict or an alcoholic looks like and what the drug or drink makes an individual do. Right? Because Jerome, my father, was the nicest guy in the world. Everybody loved Jerome. But when he didn't come home to make dinner at 5, and we heard him and his biker buddies pull in the parking lot at like 3, and the keys hit the lap, we shook like leaves because we knew what we were in for. So at that very moment, at a very young age, I understood the psychic change that takes place upon an individual once they ingest a drink or a drug. As a matter of fact, I made it a point to prove that I would never become that fucking bum. I will never become that man in anything.
This is Brian Knovak. He's Brian Novak was a great skateboard rider. He was one of the best. He had $1 million contracts and everything. He got into drugs, speedballs, crack, cocaine, everything. He became addicted to it. Lost everything. I mean, the guy had his own skateboards made after him. He had to sign on with some certain contract. And what happened was he lost everything. And in that time, he also joined Jackass. He was one of the Jackass performers. But this guy, let me tell you, he got clean. He's clean for a while now. I don't know how long. It's years. It's more than me. But he makes a lot of sense. He's a speaker now. He's an emotional speaker for recovering addicts. And I listen to him all the time. He's really good. He has some great points.
That I do in my life, I will excel at just to prove that I'll never be my father. And at the right young age of 7, I was blessed with the ability to be given my first skateboard. And that night when my mother, God bless her, that night when my mother put me to bed with that first skateboard, she said, "Brandon, what would you like me to do with the skateboard?" And I said, "I want it in bed with me." She said, "Why?" I said, "Because if I
He wanted to sleep with the skateboard at 7 years old.
die, I want it to go with me to heaven." The moment that board touched my hand, I knew I was going to be a skateboarder for the rest of my life, right? I ate it, I breathed it, I slept it, I dreamt it. At 15, I was the first skateboarder to be endorsed by Gatorade. They were flying me to the Quake Roads building where they made Gatorade at the time in Chicago, and they would strap me on this treadmill, and they strapped Michael Jordan on the treadmill directly next to me, and they strapped these EKGs to our chest and give us each Gatorade to see the different effects that it has on sports players. I'm designing a prototype shape for Pal Peralta. I'm touring the world with the Bones Brigade, Tony Hawk, Steve Caballero, Mike Vallely, fellas of that nature. From that very young age, doing some things in life that people would accredit to success, happiness, potentially even dream of doing. And the reason why I'm giving you the backstory of how I got to this point is because I really think it's important to paint this picture that at no point in time in my life did I sign up or resign to the notion that at 38 years old, I'm going to be a homeless heroin addict standing on the corner of Eastern Avenue in Patterson Park, allowing men to blow me to acquire enough money to get another bag of heroin. How the fuck did I get here? How the fuck did I get there? I had goals, I had dreams, I had intentions, I had ambitions. I was going to be somebody. And most importantly, who I was not going to become was my fucking father or a drug addict like him, proving a point to everybody. I never felt like I was in search of or lacking this ability to find happiness. Because as a matter of fact, skateboarding did for me at a very young age what drugs and alcohol did for me at a later age. Right? You give me a skateboard at the age of 7, you put me in a room with the world's prettiest models. I'll not only believe that they've been waiting for me, but that they're dying to marry me. I don't know what the fuck you're laughing at. That's the truth. But drugs and alcohol later on down the road produced that same delusional narrative that I bought into hook, line, and sinker. So again, I'm just painting this picture of the fact that like I wasn't born looking for this happiness, and the first time I fucking put that needle in my arm, I felt like, aha, I found the reason for which I'll jump out of bed for with the lust of life every day. That's not my story. And what I'm here to do today is to share with you my story. I'm not going to share with you your story or believe to understand the pain that brought you into these lovely seats at this lovely facility listening to my fucking mouth for an hour. That's not fair to me or you. Right? Because I'm going to bring it back, and what I do know is the wheelhouse of the people that I'm talking about. If you can relate to being an addict or an alcoholic, such as myself, all that means is that we're defiant by nature. We hate authority and we refuse to conform. Right? Because I don't know if you're anything like me, but I possess this job that places me in a lot of positions I don't like to be in. And it allows me to feel a lot of feelings I don't like to feel, and that job consists of knowing everything. Right? So thank you, Avila. Thank you, Sharif, for kindly suggesting to me what I could potentially do to save my life, but I'm going to kindly suggest why you should fuck off. Because I know. May 25th, 2015, walked into my 13th inpatient treatment center. Everything I owned in this life consisted of 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, a stick of deodorant, fit into a bag that doubles my pillow, a needle, a spoon, and a restraining order. The reality set in that you know what I do know is that I have no fucking idea. And my very best thinking placed me in a position like this, sitting in a lovely fucking seat or chair like that, listening to someone such as my mouth for an hour, at best. So if you can relate to anything that I just shared with you as being an addict or an alcoholic, what my job here today to do before my people is to share with you my message in a form of attraction rather than promotion. I'm going to give it to you in such a way that I hope you find so desirable, so appealing, so attractive, so much so that you like want to fuck it. If I can get you to want what I have so bad that you're willing to do anything that I've done to get what I have, guess what? The terms of your contract will forever change. And you could be the next fucking billboard for recovery, sobriety. And you could be the next president of the United States. And you could be the next brain surgeon of fucking California. And you could be the next accountant for the next fucking presidency term. You know, literally become anything you want. But unfortunately, I can't do this for you. It has to become your idea, and you have to want it as bad as I want to share it with you, so that when I finish my talk and I walk out this door and I get back in my car and I drive 2.5 hours back to my hotel, if one person in this room says to themselves, if that motherfucker can do it, There's no reason why I can't. It makes my day worthwhile. So that's my agenda here today before you. So bringing it back, I don't recall the first bottle I put to my mouth, the first pill that I shoved down my throat, the first joint that I put to my lips, the first line that I slipped on my nose. I don't recall that. But what I do recall, as sure as the day is long, like this pen is in my hand, is the first time that someone attempted to stand between me and it. And you're going to hear in my story, anybody, any place or anything that attempts to stand between me and a drink or a drug must and will fucking go. And it's not personal, it's just business. Because I don't want to do the things that I have to do to acquire another bag, but like, I'm sorry, it's business. And what that looked like for me the first time someone attempted to stand between me and it was I was on a tour with a bunch of pro skaters. I was in downtown Atlanta, and we were doing a demo in the city at the skate shop. And Mike Vallely had caught me with a lot of drugs, and he said, Brandon, get rid of the drugs or get off the tour. I throw the drugs down the sewer. We finish the demo. I go back to the hotel. I meet a young lady at the hotel. She drives me back and said, sewer. I fished the drugs out of the sewer. Short story long, I get caught with the drugs. I'm now kicked off the tour. Now, see, my delusional alcoholic brain that I possess that lies to me in my own voice that makes me believe the unbelievable tells me that the skateboarding world needs me. It cannot go on without me, and I am an asset. But the sad truth is the skateboarding world does not need me. It goes on quite fine without me, and I am a liability. But unfortunately, I'm the last person to realize that. Why? Because I possess that job that consists of knowing everything. Right? So packages are no longer being sent. Tours are no longer being scheduled. Flights are no longer being booked. Video parts are no longer being produced. Why? Because to achieve such simple things in life as those, I have to have conversations that consist of words like honest, reliable, dependable. And I avoid that like the plague because it does not help me get one more. And one day I'm sleeping, I'm throwing the phone by my mother, and I put the phone to my ear, and it's my team captain for Pal Peralta. And he said, Brandon, we have one or two options we could do with you. We could put you in the treatment, you can save your life, you can continue to skate for Pal Peralta, or you can quit the team. From 7 to 16, I ate it, I breathed it, I slept it, I dreamt it. I'm the first skateboarder endorsed by Gatorade. I did a commercial with Michael Jordan. I'm touring the world with Tony Hawk. And from the very first fucking time of my life, someone is attempting to stand between me and it. And I don't even have a breath of fresh air in my lungs when I said I quit. The disconnection from reality that's already taken place at the ripe young age of end of 16, turning to 17 is astronomical. It's mind-blowing. And I haven't even stepped into a facility yet. Now I'm enjoying my newfound freedom, this time off, this unexpected leave of absence. And about 2 months into this process, my mother and my girlfriend come to me and they said, Brandon, we have a great idea for you. I said, what's that? They said, we want you to go to treatment. Why the fuck would I just accept it from them if I turned it down from my team captain here in Santa Barbara at the Powell warehouse? The abnormal's already become the normal. I haven't even entered my first treatment center. I said, you know what? That's a great idea. A, I have the time. B, I'm going to report to said treatment center. And I'll report back to my mother and my girlfriend why I'm not you fucking nut jobs, nor will I ever be. This is merely an overreaction at best. You just caught me in a bad time, on a bad way, in a bad day. Tomorrow is going to be different. Strap me up to a polygraph. I will have every police officer in the world pat me on the back saying, Mr. Knovak, we wish everyone was as honest as you are. The world will be a safer place to live in. That's how much I believe that tomorrow is going to be different. I'm not trying to sell you a fucking dream. Tomorrow is for real going to be different. But unfortunately, I wake up tomorrow to repeat yesterday's actions, and I'm stuck in Groundhog Day for like 22 fucking years. As quick as I agree, my bags are miraculously packed. Blink of the eye, I'm in the car, and I'm being dropped off at the very first facility I have the luxury of entering at 17 years old in Baltimore City. I'm met outside by a very nice, kind, warming, like intake lady, and she said, son, are you Mr. Knovak? I said, yes. She said, come with me, sweetheart. And I'm carrying my bag, and I get led into this very big cafeteria, but this cafeteria is completely empty, not a soul in sight. Really bright interrogation style lights shining down on me. I'm ill as a research monkey. I'm detoxing off heroin. And out of nowhere, this older black gentleman walks in, and he comes directly to me, and he said, white boy, what are you doing here? I said, heroin. He said, how old are you? I said, 17. He said, do yourself a favor and don't turn 18 in a place like this. And as quick as he came, he left. He nor I had no idea the significance of that simple conversation was ever going to have on my life. Mind you, I'm comparing out, proving a point why I don't belong. This is just an overreaction at best, focusing only on the differences, not the similarities, because I will not relate to being one of you people, because after all, you're my fucking father. Fuck you. You know what I can tell you about that gentleman? Where the 4 teeth were placed in his mouth. Because at the time, I had all mine. He's black, I'm white. He's 70 to 75, I'm 17. He smokes crack, I successfully do heroin. He's homeless, I live with my mother and my girlfriend. God bless that man, I'm so grateful he found the answer for which he's in search of. You know what I can't tell you about that facility? I can't tell you my therapist's name. I can't tell you about the relapse prevention packets they're shoving down my throat. The healthy and unhealthy boundaries they're trying to instill in me, because if I can tell you about those things, that means I can relate to being one of you people, and I want no fucking part. But I successfully completed that 30-day treatment center. I successfully completed it. And here's the hit. I didn't turn 18 in a place like that, just like the old man predicted, fucking fool. The fuck is wrong with him? Why would he think that he could predict my out? Who the fuck does he think he is? Don't lose me. Here's the hit. I turned 19, 20, 22, 23, 25, 27, 28, 29, 32, 34, 35, 37, 38 in a jail or treatment center. And every year I'd sit on whatever bunk of whatever cell or whatever jail I happen to be in, or whatever bed, whatever facility I happen to be in, and think back to that older gentleman and say, maybe if me, myself, Brandon Knovak would have listened to him with an open mind and an open heart, I would not continuously find myself in the same fucking situation year after year after year after year. Meaning that it was fully self-induced. I had now created or painted this picture for what you view me in. In between all those birthdays, in between all those years, I'm in and out of treatment, and I come in here and I would like loiter with the intent to recover. Right? Because I would always get this therapist that was really easy on the eye, and my delusional alcoholic brain would tell me that she's dying to fuck me, at least maybe marry me. So like I'm going to be the model client that excels and lets her see how great I'm doing, because she needs to know that I'm a fucking asset to her life. So she would say to me, okay, Mr. Knovak, I'm gonna need you to get one of those sponsors. Done. I'm gonna need you to join a home group, a 12-step meeting. Done. I'm gonna need you to create a fellowship of like-minded individuals such as yourself who are trying to achieve the same thing, which is make it through another day clean and sober. Got this. Because see, what I don't think my therapist understands is I was not the kid that would show up late to class in fear that you were staring at me. I was the kid that would show up 20 minutes late to class believing that you've been waiting for me. So everything that she's suggesting is like a Monday morning. Get a sponsor, hang out with people, go to a place where all these people meet and just fucking do you. And then she'd say, without fail, okay, Mr. Knovak, but before you leave my office, I'm going to need you to go ahead and experience those 12 steps. And without fail, I'd say, I'm beginning to sense a theme of over fucking reaction here. It's Christmas Eve, 2009. I'm in a shooting gallery in West Baltimore. It's like 38 degrees at best. I have a short sleeve t-shirt on, a 3X white t-shirt. I have a pair of size like 40 jeans on with these Timberland boots. And I'm huddled up in the corner, and my arms are in my shirt. My shirt's over my knees, and my head's into my shirt. And because that's the only thing I can do to produce heat on this fucking Christmas Eve freezing cold night in the shooting gallery. How the fuck did I get here? What I've learned in my sobriety, and really my life today, is it's all in retrospect. Today, my life is live forward and learn backwards. And it's very easy for me today, with coming up on 8 years sober, to see how the fuck I got here. I got here because I sat there with a closed mind and a closed heart, comparing out, focusing only on the differences, not the similarities. Because I'm defiant by nature. I hate authority. I'll never conform. And after all, I possess that job that consists of knowing everything. That's how I got here. That's how I ended up huddled up in a shooting gallery on Christmas Eve, breathing through my nose and my mouth because it's only that produces heat. That's how I get here. Now, in between all those years, I trip and I fall into those movies, Jackass, and these TV shows called Viva La Bam. And now, see, just like in that skateboarding world, in this Jackass world, they say if we book him the flight, is he even going to make the flight? Let's say we book him the flight and he makes the flight. What condition will he be in when he gets here? Let's step out on a limb. Let's say we book him the flight and he actually makes the flight. Is the same thing that's going to happen as it did last time, where we have to kick the bathroom door down at Paramount Studios and find him down on the ground with a needle in his arm? Not a good look for the work world. But again, my delusional alcoholic brain, the one that I possess that lies to me in my own voice, that makes me believe the unbelievable, tells me the Jackass world needs me, it cannot go on without me, and I am an asset. And in reality, it goes on quite fine without me. It does not need me, and I'm a liability. Unfortunately, I'm the last person to realize that, because I possess this job that consists of knowing everything. This is the only time I'm going to ask for crowd participation. And what I'm going to share with you is an absolute fact. Do not waste your or my time after I'm done this talk asking me about this. Who's been diagnosed as an addict or an alcoholic and accepts the diagnosis? Don't shoot the messenger here. Remember this. I'm about to put you on with something. You might not like me in about a minute and a half. I'm innocent. But if you've put your hand up, such as I have, and you state that you're an addict or an alcoholic, and you accept the diagnosis that's been given to you, all that means for us that raise that hand is that we've been diagnosed with a disease that if left untreated equals death. Absolute fact. Fucking Google it, look it up in any medical dictionary. Fact. Don't waste my or your time talking to me about that. But that's just like the fluff. That's not even what I'm about to like really share with you. That's the scary part. Here's the hit. It's the only fatal disease that I've ever been diagnosed with that lies to me in my own voice, that makes me believe the unbelievable, that tells me that I am not an addict or an alcoholic. Right? It's not like your voice pops in my head and says, Brandon, you can go shoot a bag of dope like a gentleman. You can drink a glass of wine like a fucking normal person. And I'm like, fuck you, stranger danger. It's my voice. It talks to me. Just as me.
I say the same thing.
And it makes me believe the unbelievable. Follow me. If I'm diagnosed with HIV, I'm rushing to the hospital to get medication. I don't want to die. Fatal disease. If I'm diagnosed with cancer, I'm rushing to the hospital to get chemo. I don't want to die. Fatal disease. Diagnose me as an addict or an alcoholic. I need a glass of wine or a bag of heroin to figure out what the fuck's wrong with you for diagnosing me with said disease. Just as fatal as the first two diseases. Left to my own devices, I will get in my rental car. I'll go to my bank. And believe this or not, I haven't partaken in a drink or a drug for quite some time, which means I've been able to save a lot of money. I'll pull out an undisclosed amount of cash from the bank. I'll ride around the way. I'm sure my Chiba dealer still lives in the same spot, or his people. And I'll cop as much as I can physically fit into my arm. And the scariest thing about that is I can make those actions make complete sense to me right now. Right now, at this very moment. And if you're sitting there saying to yourself, what in the fuck would allow him to make such a foolish decision? He's like I'm a motivational speaker. I'm an interventionist. I own a handful of sober living houses. I own a treatment center. I sponsor people. I have a sponsor. I am like the fucking epitome of recovery or sobriety at this moment. And literally, I will leave this, get in my car, and go make those moves happen. And if you're asking yourself, what would allow me to make a foolish decision such as that? It's simple. Brandon only attends Brandon's Anonymous. Brandon only sponsors Brandon. And Brandon is Brandon's God. And when those three things are connected, it's not a matter of if, but when I recreate my history. I've seen me do it. This is not me, again, trying to tell you your story or what I think your projected outcome will be if you successfully or unsuccessfully complete or don't complete a villa. Like, no, I don't give a fuck. If you can relate to anything I share, then maybe take heed. If not, I'm your number one fucking cheerleader. I have no skin in this game. I don't. But what I know for me is it was the last thing I tried that was the first thing that worked. And again, looking back with my 8 years of sobriety and countless hours of work, it's very easy for me to see that all I've done for the better part of my life is just rearrange the furniture on the Titanic. But that bitch sank every goddamn time. They say a hard head makes for a soft ass. I promise you, I have like the softest ass in this room. What the fuck are you perverts laughing at? Now my paychecks are being diverted to my second ex-fiance because they fear if I receive all this money that I'll surely die from Paramount and all that. And now it's going to my second ex-fiance because clearly they have a pattern of attempting to disrupt my behaviors or stand between me and my drugs, and they have to fucking go. And the last one I really believe was going to be like the one. And it's really sad to say that it's not the case as a direct result of my actions. Because see, now I've experienced the 12 steps and I've learned to be accountable and recognize and accept the part that I played in the deal. My mother's a nuclear physicist. My brother's an attorney in the White House. My father dies as a direct result of the disease of addiction. First skateboarder endorsed by Gatorade, doing a commercial with Michael Jordan, touring the world with Tony Hawk. Trip and fall into these movies, Jackass, these TV shows, Viva La Bam. From an external perspective, I've done some things in life that people would accredit to success, happiness, potentially even dream of doing, but the reality of what my life really looks like is this. I've been in 9 inpatient treatment centers. I've lost count of outpatients and detoxes. My mother, a few years back, she spent Mother's Day going to buy 2 plots, one for me and one for her, on Mother's Day. She sold 3 homes to pay for me to go to 2 different treatment centers. I've been medevac to 4 different hospitals in 4 different states with 4 different overdoses. Why the fuck would I go to treatment center number 10? Here's the hit. speaking for myself, and I'm going to go ahead and venture to say for you, that none of us get here because we took the short bus to school. Quite the contrary, actually. We get here because we're too smart for our own fucking good. And then we end up in a seat just like this. And I end up thinking myself right out of it. Because the craziest thing happens with recovery. It's one of the things that works so goddamn well, we stop doing it. Right? Everything comes back in abundance. The money, the fucking businesses, the pussy, the cars, the money, the property. It's all in abundance. It's back. Everything I wanted plus some. And I'm like, now those 12-step meetings have become an inconvenience. And I get that. I'm guilty of it. But why would I go to treatment center number 10? What's number 10 going to tell me that number 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1 is missed? Why would I waste my time or yours, Sharia? What the fuck's the point? I have a plan. I'm going to move to Helsinki, Finland. I don't know why the fuck you would laugh at my plan, because it's sure proof. I'm trying to paint a very clear, vivid picture of how disconnected from reality I really am. You're the fucking fool if you don't think that my plan is foolproof in my mind. It's literally across the world. They don't even speak my language. I'm going to go there. I'm going to recreate. I'm going to reaccess. I'm going to I'm going to reevaluate. I'm going to redo life because I do not like the results that I'm receiving in Westchester, Pennsylvania, or Baltimore, Maryland. I jump on a plane from Philly. I fly to Helsinki. From Helsinki, I'm taken to the Ritz-Carlton of Helsinki because from a very young age, my mother used to tell me, show me who you walk with and I'll tell you who you are. Which transcended somewhere along the lines in one of my many attempts at one of my many facilities, me believing that one of my therapists said to me, social acceptability equals personal recovery, which is not true. But see, my delusional alcoholic brain will create these false narratives as long as they justify or support my relapsed behavior. So I really believe that a therapist told me social acceptability equals personal recovery. Therefore, as long as the home is big enough, the account is high enough, the woman is pretty enough, and the car is new enough, I got to be doing fucking well. So my mother tells me at a young age, show me who you walk with, I'll tell you who you are. Then that connects to social acceptability equals personal recovery. I fly to Helsinki, Finland to get a new outcome. And I go to the Ritz-Carlton of Helsinki because what fucking junkie stays at the Ritz-Carlton? I go to the concierge desk. They take my belongings upstairs. I beeline it directly to the lobby bar. I pass these businessmen in these really expensive suits having these meetings in these different languages. And I belly up to the bar and I order a glass of wine followed by a second. There's 4 glasses to a bottle. I've now graduated to a bottle. I meet a gentleman at the bar. He slides me a number. I'm now having black tar heroin delivered to me in abundance. I go into that bathroom and I'm doing what I do. And I call one of my fucking sponsors from one of those fucking therapists that I really believed wanted to fuck and or marry me. And the reason why I keep going back to saying that is not to be funny. It's to say, I don't give a fuck what you're here for. I don't care what brings you here. All I care about is what keeps you here. Whether it's a job, whether it's a woman, whether it's your neighbor, the judge, the parole, whatever it is, I don't give a fuck what brings you here. I just care about what keeps you here. So I'm in the bathroom, I'm doing what I do, and I call one of those sponsors that I've only acquired to fucking impress the therapist I believe wanted to be with me. And I called Lex and I said, Lex, how did this happen? How am I here yet again? He said, well, if you have a second, Mr. Knovak, I'd like to share with you something. But I know you're a really busy man with a really full itinerary, and after all, these international calls can become quite pricey. I said, what, Lex? I could see what he was doing. He said, I guess you skimmed over the part in the book where we discussed that geographical change does not equate to recovery. You can't shake your shadow. I put you in Finland, you shoot dope. I put you in California, you shoot dope. Your mother dies, you shoot dope. Your son's born, you shoot dope. You fucking clinicians toss around this word triggers. My triggers were when my eyelids open. I'll justify why any time, place, feeling, or sensation makes sense to shoot a bag of dope over. He said, if you have another second, I'd like to share with you something else. But again, I know you're a really busy man with a really full itinerary and these international calls are quite pricey. What, Lex? He said, I want you to do me a solid. He said, I want you to stop what you're doing. He said, I want you to take that thing out of your arm. I want you to lift your head straight up and I want you to stare directly into the mirror in front of you and tell me what you see. He said, better yet, don't say a fucking word. I'm going to tell you what you see. Right now, you are staring directly into the eyes of your problem. You are your problem. This heroin and cocaine that you're shooting into your arm at this very moment is merely the solution to your problem. And for one of the very rare handful of moments in life, you're allowing somebody to stand between you and your solution. And at this moment, Mr. Day One, at this moment, you're feeling a stranger in your own skin, trying to figure out who the fuck let you in and why. And I said, you know what, Lex? These international calls are quite pricey. Right? My delusional alcoholic brain will create these narratives as long as they support me returning back to a drink or a drug. So with that, I go back to the concierge desk. I have them go receive my articles from my room, which I never stepped foot in. I'm back at Helsinki airport. I fly back to Philadelphia because clearly Helsinki is the problem. My mother's a nuclear physicist. My brother's an attorney in the White House. My father died as director of the disease of addiction. First skateboarder endorsed by Gatorade, doing a commercial with Michael Jordan, touring the world with the Bones Brigade. End up in these movies that break box office records. TV show wildly successful. On the flip side of that coin, I've now been in 11 inpatient treatment centers. Lost count of outpatients and detoxes. My mother has bought me a plot. People have begun to take life insurance policies out on me. My days are spent standing on the corner of Eastern Avenue and Patterson Park, praying to God that lawyer that drives the burgundy Cadillac gets off at 5 p.m. as opposed to 5:30 because he pays me good money for my body. How the fuck did I get here? I sat where you sit, with goals, dreams, ambitions. And if you're sitting in your chair and you're saying, God damn it, I'm grateful that guy figured it out, because, like, come on. Don't miss what I'm about to say. Do not miss what I'm about to say. My story was not my story either in the beginning. If you would have caught me at treatment center number 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, you would not have got the same story you're hearing today with 13 under my belt. I come up with another plan. I really don't want to waste the time of going back to treatment center number 12. Why? I decided I'm going to write a book. Now, I have no high school diploma. I got my GED in the penitentiary, but I decided I'm going to write a book. I go to the Barnes & Nobles. I get a book with one of my favorite authors. I look at the outline of his book. His book's written in 12 chapters. Pen to paper, I write 12 chapters. I take my 12 chapters, I hand them to who today is my co-author, a very intelligent man with letters in front and behind his name. He turns my 12 chapters into 23 chapters. We acquire a literary agent through one of my best friends, that guy Bam. His manager gets me a literary agent. My literary agent shops the manuscript around. A whole lot of no's, a few yeses. We come to an agreement with Kensington Publishers, Citadel Press. The book does insanely well, selling hundreds of thousands of copies around the world. New York Times top 10 selling author. I'm now a published author who's written an autobiography addiction memoir. I'm receiving mail from all over the world of people like you, Ma, saying, I read your book. I didn't want my story to get as bad as yours. I have 30 days. People like you, Ma, saying, I read your book. I understand when my daughter picks the bottle as opposed to coming to have dinner with me on the weekends. It's not that I'm a bad mother. It's that she suffers with a disease of alcoholism. My delusional brain just interpreted that as I just wrote the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. But what I forgot to share with you is I wrote that book while heavily under the influence of endless amounts of red wine and copious fucking lines of cocaine. The night my book's being released in Times Square in New York City and the Barnes & Nobles, it's a big, well-to-do thing in the scholarly world. My family's there, my literary agent's there, the publishers are there. All these people have come because, yet again, I might just be onto something. But the only problem is I don't feel good that day. I don't have any dope. And I looked to my assistant, CJ, and I said, CJ, I need you to give me $100. He said, absolutely not. I will not aid and abet you into fucking up yet another chance, maybe the last one you have. And I said, CJ, do I need to remind you whose payroll you're on? And he said, I will not help you destroy your life yet again. Now, see, I'm at this book signing of my own autobiography, addiction memoir, and I have a buddy of mine with me from Baltimore as well, and he's sitting like where you're at, and he doesn't feel good either. And we take a look at each other. We don't say a word, but we have that complete conversation, that language of the heart untreated, if you will. And all of a sudden, they wheel my books in these boxes on this dolly, and me and my buddy, we stand up in uniform precision. I go over, I grab 2 boxes of my books. He grabs 2 boxes of my books. We've just stolen 4 boxes of my own autobiography, addiction memoir books from my own book release party to take back to Baltimore to sell, to get money to buy more dope. How the fuck did I get here? We sell the books, we shoot the dope. He goes his way, I get on the train, I go back to Westchester, Pennsylvania. I go to my second ex-fiance's house, I walk up the door, and a common theme in my story is that locks stop working, right? And on this day, the lock stopped working, so I kicked the fucking door in, right? And when I kicked the door in, I realized that she's taken everything. She has taken our paintings. She has taken our furniture. She has taken our cats. She has taken our clothes. And at that moment, I fell to the ground and I found myself lying in a fetal position, crying uncontrollably. And at that very moment, it dawned on me that this home is now a spitting image of what I have become. This big empty shell of a house now consoles this big empty shell of a man lying on the floor in a fetal position, crying uncontrollably. And guess what the only thing I can think of at that very moment was? that gentleman from that first treatment center that said, do yourself a favor and don't turn 18 in a place like this. Because yet again, I found myself in a position that if I just would have fucking listened to him with an open mind and an open heart, I would not have ended up. And with that, my phone goes off and it's my mother. And I doubt many of you in this room will remember, but around 8 years ago in Baltimore City, the police killed a young black man by the name of Freddie Gray. And when that incident occurred in Baltimore City, it turned Baltimore into the movie The Purge. Right? They were robbing, they were looting, they were shooting, they were stealing, they were burning blocks down. They brought the National Guard that came in and stood on every other corner with a machine gun and a tank, and they infused the 8 o'clock curfew. No one was to be on the streets. And my mother lives around 15 blocks from where this incident occurred. And I'm lying on that floor in the fetal position, and my mother called me, and she's crying uncontrollably. She said, Brandon, I'm terrified for my life. Can you please come make sure they don't burn my house down? My mother is someone I will do anything for. No questions asked. I will do any fucking thing for this woman. She's loved me when I didn't love myself. She's fed me when I didn't feed myself. She's bathed me when I didn't bathe myself. She's prayed for me when I didn't pray for myself. You name it, I'm fucking there. Point to the sword and I'll jump on it in a heartbeat.
You know what? That's exactly me. With my mother, I always thought that she never thought that I used crack or cocaine. And I told her, we sat down at the kitchen table and I said, Mom, I'm addicted to crack cocaine. And she goes, I know. You didn't have to tell me. I go, what do you mean? You didn't say nothing? She said, no. I knew you would get it together someday. But unfortunately, I really didn't. And it came to the point where my mother loved me no matter what. But it got to the point where I was actually stealing because crack, let me tell you something, and I don't care what anybody says, crack will make you do anything to get a rock. I'm going to say this again. Crack will make you do anything to get a rock, except there's one thing I didn't do, and that was gave for pay or, anything for the rock. I stole from my mother. I stole her jewelry. I stole her money. I borrowed money and never paid her back, but she was always there for me no matter what. Until she had to sell the house because she couldn't afford it no more in Smithtown, New York. And everybody was going everywhere. My brothers, they were married, so they had their own family. I was so much into crack that my brother wouldn't even invite me to his house to sleep in the basement. I said, can I? And he told me, no, you're too far gone. That's how I ended up in the woods in New York. But anyways, let's get back to Brandon. But I know what he's saying, man. My mother would have done anything for me, except for she moved to Georgia. And I couldn't go there because my other brother was taking her to Georgia with his mean-ass wife. We won't go that far, but anyways, I couldn't go to Georgia, so I ended up homeless in New York. I asked my brother's wife, who was my sister-in-law, the mean one. They were locking up the doors, and I didn't have a ride yet. And I said, "Listen, can I just stay in the house, which was empty, until my ride comes to pick me up to take me somewhere? I don't know where." And you know what she told me? No. And she's not even part of the family. She was an in-law. And you know what? Years later on, when I did get clean, and I told my mother that, I said, do you know Darren, who's my brother, and his wife wouldn't let me back in the house to wait for my ride? And she said, no, she didn't even know that. They didn't even tell my mother that. That's how fucked up. I'm not going to blame it on them. It was my fault. So that's how bad it was. All right, let's get back to this.
She's crying uncontrollably. Brandon, can you please come make sure they don't burn my house down? In theory, my plan is to get up from that floor, go back to 30th Street Station in Philadelphia, and catch the train right back to Baltimore to make sure she's as safe as humanly possible. In theory, that's the plan. My disease said, that's real cute, bitch. That's real cute, bitch. Let me show you what your actions are going to fucking look like. You're going to get on this train. You're going to go back to Baltimore. You're going to go back to this mother's house that you love so much. And you're going to walk up into her bedroom, and you're physically going to remove this 78-year-old woman from her bedroom. Yep. You're going to take that bedroom over. She's going to take to sleeping on the sofa in the living room out of fear. Because, see, I'm going to stay in her bedroom for 3 months. I'm going to leave it once a day.
Exactly.
And I'm going to sit in that bedroom and I'm going to chain smoke and I'm going to shoot dope. And she's going to be in fear that because I keep shooting dope while chain smoking, I fall asleep, and she's in fear I'm going to burn her house down. So her next best thought is if she sleeps on the sofa directly next to the front door and I catch her house on fire because I'm falling asleep while shooting dope, she could probably make it out alive. Every day, man, every day at 4:30, my eyes would open religiously. I had no alarm clock. I didn't have a phone that woke me up. My disease knew that every morning, 4:30, religiously, my eyes would open and I would gently open her door and I would sneak down the stairs because God forbid I stepped on the wrong stair and it made a noise and it woke her up and she'd say, Brandon, can you make me something to eat? Not right fucking now. Not right now. And I get to the bottom of these stairs and I would get on all four and I would army crawl over to the living room sofa, AKA her bed. And this hand would grab her purse and this hand would grab the bell that she's attached to her purse. And I would gently slide it over to me because God forbid that bell rang and she woke up and said, what are you doing? Don't fucking do it, Mom. Don't do it. And every day without fail, I would slip her debit card out. I'd hit the corner store bodega and I'd hit the ATM for $180. And I'd go up the way, I'd cop the dope and the coke and I'd come back and one day I make it back to my mother's and I go to put the key in the lock and the lock doesn't work. So I politely knock on the door because I love my mother. I can't kick her door in. You see the disconnection from reality that's already taken place. The abnormal has become the normal. I'm simply living on that animalistic level where I merely live to use and use to live. Have no problem making her sleep on the sofa in fear of her life because I'm going to burn her fucking house down. Have no problem taking $180 every day for 3 months straight, but God forbid I kick her door down. Whoa. So I politely knock on the door, and in this particular day, my hotshot attorney brother from D.C. drove down to her house. See, my mother refused to go upstairs in her bedroom because, like, ignorance is bliss, and what mother wants to watch their son kill himself on a layaway plan one bag at a time? So if she didn't walk up those stairs, she didn't really have to accept how bad my reality was becoming and that plot was probably going to be used soon. On this particular day, my brother drives down from D.C. He physically walks her up into that bedroom, and that bedroom looks like a murder scene. There's blood on the ceilings, there's blood on the walls, there's needles, there's cookers, there's bags, there's ties. If you can relate, God bless you. If you can't, thank fucking God. So with that, they collect my belongings. I see my mother being helped to the front door, crying uncontrollably. My brother has everything that I own. She opens the door and she looks at me and she said, Brandon, you can no longer stay here. You have to go. I will no longer love you to death. And I said, I knew that my words held no more weight. I was sick of my own fucking voice. I wasn't trying to walk my way out of this. All I could do was say, do you hate me? She said, I'll never hate you, sweetheart, but I will no longer love you to death. Huh. And with that, my brother hands me my worldly belongings.
Wow.
15, I'm doing a commercial with Michael Jordan, touring the world with the Bones Brigade. In those movies, Jackass, TV shows, Viva.
That's what my family did.
Man. Become a New York Times top 10 selling author of an autobiography addiction memoir. I've done some things in life people equate to success, happiness, potentially even dream of doing. May 25th, I'm standing on the stoop of my mother's house in Baltimore City. My brother's just handed me everything that I own, which consists of 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, a stick of deodorant, a needle, and a spoon that fits into a bag that doubles as my pillow. And with that, a police officer comes around the corner and he says, excuse me, son, are you Mr. Knovak? I said, yes. He said, this is for you. And I opened it up and there's a restraining order. And he said, I promise you, boy, if I catch you back on your mother's premises, I will not be so kind. Huh. How the fuck did I get here? I don't know about you, but I had goals, I had dreams, I had ambitions, I had aspirations. I was going to be somebody. And who I was not going to be was my fucking father. How did I get here? I'm a 38-year-old homeless heroin addict who stands on the corner letting men blow me for a living. How the fuck did I get here? I want to kill myself so goddamn bad. I'm just terrified to hurt myself in the process. Terrible suicide because I keep waking up. And I finally found myself in a position where I'm so low the curb looks like a skyscraper. With that, I take my worldly belongings. I'm walking up the street and my phone goes off and it's this woman on social media. She said, hey, Knovak, I read your book. It saved my life. And I could give a fuck less because I don't even want mine right now. She said, what do you say about an all-exclusive paid trip to Fort Lauderdale? I said, that's great. I need some heroin, some cocaine, some Xanax, and some wine. She says, no problem. Red flag number 1. My book saved her life, but she's going to give me substances to take mine. But what the fuck ever. She's paying for my airfare. She's paying for the food and boarding. Most importantly, she's paying for the drugs. See, what I forgot to share with you is that I am to see my parole officer tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. in Chester County,
shit.
Pennsylvania.
Shit.
It's 6 p.m. I'm sitting in a shooting gallery. I have a needle hanging out of my arm. I'm about to go to BWI Airport, board a flight to Fort Lauderdale. I'm supposed to be...
Lisa K, that was years ago, but I'm starting to get back since I've been clean 5 years now. I'm getting back to, I'm starting to talk to my mother again. And my sister, she's the only one who's been there. She's been giving me money even when I was homeless. And to tell you the truth, the money she was giving me, I was buying crack. Still, this is still when I was addicted to it. But I also bought food too. But anyways, I'm making it back into my family's life. I talk to my mom. We talk to each other every now and then. That's a start. You know what I mean? So it's getting better. It does work. As long as I stay clean, I'm fine. And I'm trying to get a lot closer. The closest miss I've been with my mother years ago. And I'm trying to work it out with my family. One of my other brothers is a Suffolk County detective in New York. And he won't say a word to me. In fact, he actually said if I ever get in trouble by the police, don't mention his name. All right, let's get back to it.
In his office tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. I'm supposed to be in Pennsylvania. I'm not supposed to leave the state of Pennsylvania, and I'm supposed to produce a clean urine. The delusional alcoholic brain that I possess that lies to me in my own voice that makes me believe the unbelievable says, don't worry, get dressed accordingly, hurry up and get to Fort Lauderdale, meet the woman, get what you need to get from her, and you'll make it back in plenty of time to produce this clean urine for him tomorrow morning at 8:30. It's physically and humanly impossible. Even if I have a private jet at my disposal, I'll never pass this urine for this man. But I believe it so much so that I got to get dressed accordingly because my parole officer's name is Matt Pfeiffer, and his nickname is Maxim Out Matt. So I kind of might give you an understanding of the fellow that I'm dealing with. So I get dressed accordingly because I can't look disheveled for Matt. So I put these at once point in time nice pair of dress slacks on. If you overlook the cigarette hole burns, I don't wear underwear at this point because like I get fucking high. I don't wash them and find imaginary dressers and imaginary alleys. I fucking shoot dope, man. I put this nice button-up shirt on and these at once point in time nice pair of Brooks Brothers shoes, but I lost a shoestring along the way. So when I go in to cop a few bags from the boys before I board this flight to Fort Lauderdale, because I don't want to get sick on the flight, I cop from the boys, and the boys see fit to rob me as opposed to serve me. So they decide to rip my front and my back pockets completely out. Now my dick and my ass are completely exposed. They rip my shirt open. The only button that stays buttoned is this very top button. I got these shoes on with one shoestring. I'm now roaming the streets of West Baltimore looking like a gay East LA cholo gangbanger, right? I'm glad you think my fucking demise is really funny. So the plan doesn't go accordingly. I make it to the airport because God forbid I miss this flight because I'm on a tight timeline. I got to make it back to produce a clean urine for Matt in less than 12 hours. And I get to the airport and I get up to the counter and the woman takes one look at me and she said, Mr. Knovak, are you under the influence of anything? And I said, absolutely not. She said, I believe that you are and you will not fly for 3 days. Not like the next flight out or tomorrow morning, for Christ's sakes, 3 fucking days. This is that full circle moment. Remember in the beginning of my talk where I told you I found myself in a position where I was divinely inconvenienced and the God of my understanding showed up and created just a big enough gap between me and the last speedball that I shot to allow me to have that moment of clarity to see what my life really looked like was, and I was no longer accepting of it. Here's that moment. I don't want to go to Fort Lauderdale. It's hot. It's sandy. I don't know the hustles. My heart is beating like I just shot 20 kilos of cocaine. I do not want to get on Fort Lauderdale. I don't want to get on that plane. But my disease said, bitch, when I want to know how you feel, I'll ask. Till then, act accordingly and get on this fucking flight. And I'm standing there and the woman takes one look at me and she said, Mr. Knovak, you will not fly for 3 days. Now, see, my perception of this conversation was this. The woman knows who I am. Her kid's an addict and she blames her kid's disease on me. How dare her piss on my parade? The reality is anybody dressed the way I was dressed would not be allowed to board a flight, let alone walk outside the door. 2 things I've learned in my career. I will never win an argument with a judge or a TSA airport security agent. What they say goes. And now, see, having been sober, coming up on 8 years, finally having done the internal work that was required, meaning the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's allowed me to have the external results that I've always desired, meaning I have a very clear perspective on reality today. It's very easy for me to look back and recognize the synchronicity in life's events that have led me to the right here, right now, that prove to me the God of my understanding has been doing so much more for me, so much longer than I could ever conceive. So if you're sitting in this room, Mr. Day One, if you're sitting in this room and you're waiting for the miracle to take place, please allow me to be the first person to tell you it's already fucking happened. It's already happened. If you can't see it, I understand. If you can, welcome. What I know to be true today, the God of my understanding dressed up in the form of a TSA airport security agent and did for me what I could not do myself, which was deny me access to that flight. And I stepped out of line and I got back in the corner and I called that same sponsor that I acquired from my therapist just so, you know. And I said, Lex, I'm stranded at BWI airport and I want to kill myself. He said, nah, Slick, that's not what you're going to do. You're going to come on a train. You're going to jump on the next train. You're going to come back to Philadelphia. You people, I was not buying what you were selling. I was not drinking your Kool-Aid. You people were my father. Fuck you. You people are going to leave your cookouts. You're going to leave your family. You're going to leave your loved ones. Memorial Day 2015. You're going to come pick this hopeless, helpless alcoholic up such as myself. You allow me to spend the night with me. You take me to see my parole officer, Matt Piper, in the morning. Matt Piper grants me one more shot. He sends me back to the same facility I've been to 4 previous attempts over my 13 overall. And I'm sitting in the same chair with the same intake coordinator without fail. And generally what my intake process would look like is this. Okay, Mr. Knovak, your insurance will cover you for 90 days. And my rebuttal to that was, in theory, 90 days is great, but in reality, I'm more of like a 45-day kind of fella. Right? I have this woman to fuck, this job to fulfill, and this state to go to. And she would gently laugh at me each and every time and say, sweetheart, you have no idea. Because anything and everything that you put in front of your recovery does not or will not matter. It will go. Memorial Day 2015, May 25th, 2015. For the first time in my life, I had finally been demoralized in just such a fashion from drugs and alcohol. I had been beaten into that state of reasonlessness. And I sat in the same chair with the same intake coordinator, and she gave me the same offer without fail. The only difference was on this day, when she gave me that offer, I could not come back with a counter offer. Because if I said the word no, it entailed an explanation. And I swear to God, for the first time in my life, and thank God, the disease of addiction had beaten me speechless. All I could do was shake my head yes. And she said, sweetheart, you're in no condition to do your intake. Get up to detox. I'll see you in 4 days. I take my 8 scarves, my 2 jackets, 3 socks, stick a deodorant needle, spoon, restraining order, my gay East LA Cholo gangbanging outfit, and I stroll up to the detox, and I'm met at the front door by this 19-year-old tech. He said, Mr. Knovak, you're back. I said, aren't you a fucking genius? You don't miss a beat, do you, boy? He said, Mr. Knovak, I regret to inform you, your clothes are not rehab-oriented. You need some underwear. You need some sweatpants. You need some slides. And I had heard you fucking nut job caught like people say shit like, a grateful addict will never use again. A grateful alcoholic will never drink again. And it didn't make sense until it made sense. And on this day, I'm standing next to this fucking 19-year-old tech who's smiling from ear to ear, and he's reprimanding me on needing underwear. And for the first time in my life, all I could say to myself is, God forbid any of you heard this, is please, God, let me find a pair of underwear. He said, it's okay, Mr. Knovak. Don't worry. Come with me. We're going to go to the basement. We're going to go to the donations room. We're going to see if we can find you some used underwear. Now, that laugh I'll fucking relate to. Everything else, you're fucking insane. But that I can relate to. Because I don't know where you're at mentally, but I don't know if you heard, my mother's a nuclear physicist. My brother's an attorney in the White House. First skateboarder, doing the thing with Jordan, fucking traveling the world with Pal Peralta. In these movies, break box office records. New York Times selling author. Did some things in life people equate to success, happiness, potentially a dream of doing. The reality is I'm a 38-year-old fucking alcoholic standing in the basement of my 13th inpatient treatment center next to a 19-year-old tech as he's thumbing through these boxes looking for some used underwear, and I'm praying to God that he finds them. How the fuck did I get here? I got here because I sat there with a closed mind and a closed heart, comparing out, focusing only on the differences, not the similarities, because I possess this job that consists of knowing everything, and I'm defiant by nature. I hate authority, and I'll never fucking conform. Why? Because I know. I'm praying to God he finds these underwear. I'm praying to God, please, God, please, God, please, God. He's smiling from ear to ear. I am the least confrontational person you'll ever meet in your life, and it comes from things I've endured as a child with my fucking biker father. But on this day, I've never wanted to knock someone's head off so bad in my life. How dare he be so happy in my presence? Right? It had been so long since I smiled or found anything to be optimistic about that if you did it in my company, I took it fucking personal. I'm praying to God he finds him. I'm praying to God he finds him. And at that very moment, 2 things had just taken place that were going to forever change the course of my life that I was completely unaware were happening. The very first thing was I went from that job that consisted of knowing everything to realizing that what I do know is I have no idea. And my very best thinking places me in a basement with a 19-year-old kid as he thumbs through a box looking for some used underwear, and I'm praying to fucking God that he finds them.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
He's looking for the used underwear, he doesn't find them, but what he does find is a pair of size 40 women's sweatpants with no drawstring, a woman's tank top, and a pair of size 13 Jesus sandals. I don't know how alert or attentive you are, but I'm not a woman and I do not wear a size 13. But at that moment, when this kid handed me clothes that did not belong to my gender or shoes that did not fit my feet, I was overcome with a sense of willingness unlike anything a human has ever produced. And at that moment in time, I realized that I was just met by the God of my understanding, the direct result of that gift of desperation. My pain was becoming my purpose, all unbeknownst to me. I had no idea any of this shit was happening. I was just trusting in the process and realizing and believing that my way no longer worked. And clearly, like, your guys does. Because every time I call, you're here like the fucking furniture. Hands me the clothes, the shoes. I go upstairs. I've never been so excited to put women's clothing on in my life. Get that Baltimore City smell off me, put these clothing on. I successfully complete this 90-day treatment center. And in this 90-day treatment center, they taught me things like if I changed my perception, I could change my world. And that one day my defects, the very same thing that was killing me on a layaway plan, one bag, one bottle, one needle at a time, could become my very same thing that's considered an asset, the very same thing that my dear friend Cherie says, hey, come out to my facility and share your message of promise, hope, and freedom to the gentlemen and women in my program so that maybe they can find enough power within them to make it through another day clean and sober. I successfully completed that 90-day treatment center. From there, I went to a sober living house where I resided for 1 year. For my 9 months of sobriety, my mother called me. The very same woman that served me with a restraining order. The very same woman that prayed for my death. The very same woman that took life insurance policies on me. The very same woman that bought me a plot. She called me 9 months into my process of sobriety and she said, Brandon, I hate when you come to visit me. And I said, why? She said, because I get so sad when you leave. 2 months shy of my 2-year anniversary, I signed my release papers. See, from 18 to 38, I was on parole or probation every day. It just followed me from city to state, never a free day in between. 2 months shy of my 2-year anniversary, I signed my release papers. I'm literally a free man that can go anywhere with anybody, anytime I like. I no longer live in that self-induced prison that consists of a 4-block radius that cost me $10 to get out of one bag at a time. For my 2-year medallion, I decided I was going to fly to Paris to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting and collect my chip. For my 3rd year anniversary, I bought my first home. For my 4th year anniversary, I went to Amsterdam to an AA meeting and I got my 4-year medallion. Most people don't equate Amsterdam and recovery. But the reality is the direct result of the 12 steps I've experienced a spiritual experience. The definition of a spiritual experience is simply a psychic change, meaning that I, Brandon Knovak, today no longer think how I thought when I was sitting in this chair with 2 days sober. I'm a free man that can go anywhere with anybody, anytime I like, as long as I know that I suffer with a disease called alcoholism, not alcoholism. And I cannot stay sober on yesterday's sobriety. My sobriety has a shelf life of 24 hours, meaning I have to do a few simple things along the way each day to maintain my sobriety. On my 5th year anniversary, I listened to what you fucking nut jobs told me. And you would say things like, in order to keep what you have, you have to continuously give it away. And I took heed to that because my sobriety is very precious. So I promised myself that I would recreate the sober living house I got sober and stayed sober in. And on my 5th year anniversary, I opened up one men's sober living house in Wilmington, Delaware, titled Knovak's House. One house with 10 beds. Today we have 6 houses with 65 beds. May 25th, 2022, I celebrated 7 years of continuous sobriety. I'm currently in the process of opening my own drug and alcohol treatment center that, God willing, will be open by no later than next Monday. What I've learned to be true is that sobriety has given me everything that drugs and alcohol ever promised me. And my history does not have to dictate my future, but it can most certainly guide and direct it. And most importantly, the disease of addiction is not a death sentence. As long as you're breathing, it is never too fucking late. I'm going to close with this story because I'm sure half of you fucking junkies want to smoke. I quit, so I don't care. Not my problem. There's a father that works from home, right? There's a father that works from home and he's swamped with paperwork. And he's watching his child. And his child keeps banging his dad on the knee. Dad, take me out the plate, take me out the plate. Father's swamped in paperwork. He's trying to figure out a way to buy 2 or 4 days. The father walks into his office. And in his office, on his desk, is this big picture of a puzzle of the world map. And the father thinks to himself, I got it. And he completely dismantles the picture of the puzzle of the world map, throws it on the floor in hundreds of pieces. He says, son, when you put that picture of the puzzle of the world map back together, I'll take you out to play. Father leaves that office, surely thinking he just bought 2 4 days, no questions asked. Fucking 2 hours later. Dad, I did it. Dad, I did it. Dad thinks to himself, impossible. He walks back into that office as sure as the day is long, the picture of the puzzle, the world map's put back together. Father, in complete disbelief, said, son, how did you do it? Son looked at Dad and laughed. Dad, it was simple. Dad, it was so simple. On the back of the picture of the puzzle of the world map was a picture of a man. I put the man back together. The world fell back in place. Together we stand. Divided I die. My name is Brandon. Thank you for your time. always knew with
I got one
mentality
more,
creates
boys.
reality.
One
I've
more
seen it in
song.
my own life, and I believe in blessings because I am one.
Brandon Knovak, a former professional skateboarder and TV star from shows like Viva the Bam and Jackass. What was it like going from living on the streets, homeless, eating out of trash cans, to now you're a TV star?
In reality, I was never going to fuck with my brain because I knew no matter how much I loved what I had at that moment, it was only temporary. And I always knew within that one of two things were going to happen. That either I was going to get sober or I was going to die in the process of trying to
That was big.
He's also a former addict turned best-selling author and recovery advocate, using his story and platform to help others overcome addiction.
Sex, food, porn, gambling, social media. We all have these vices. And what it allows me to do is avoid me from having to look at me.
The magic that we're looking for is in the work we're avoiding.
Yeah, and I avoided that like the plague, man. I wanted no part of that.
What were the things that you did that you feel like were the most important to rebuilding yourself?
I stopped talking and then just started walking. And then ultimately what happened was my walk started to become my talk because my behaviors were changing.
After all the trials and tribulations today, do you feel enough?
I'd say
you have a very interesting life, and like you had a lot of success early on, like way younger than most, right? By 14 years old, you were signed professional skateboarder. I think you were discovered by Stacy Peralta, I don't know, 15, 16, you're in a Gatorade commercial with Michael Jordan, representing the skaters. Like you had so much success early on. What do you attribute that to? Like, why did you have so much success so early? Was it just pure God-given talent? Was it your work ethic? What made you so incredible that young?
I believe I was blessed to find my God-given talent. You might be the best ping pong player in the world, but God might not see fit to put a paddle in your hand. Therefore, it just goes unrecognized. Life is all in retrospect and lived forward and learned backwards. I got my first skateboard at like 7. And prior to that, I could care less about skateboarding. Didn't look at it, didn't think about it, didn't even know it existed. I came from a pretty rough home life. My father was he was a Hell's Angel. He never held a job a day in his life. And he kind of taught me one thing, and that was if and when I went to prison, how to conduct myself. He was like around just enough to let us know that he was not around kind of guy. My mother is an amazing woman, and she was the head of the household. She raised us. She created stability, structure, security for us. And she's got her very first job at Mercy Hospital as a phlebotomist, drawing blood for $5 per vial. And she literally worked her way up the ladder to become a nuclear physicist on the board of that very same hospital. But in the interim, right, she had to fucking devote her life and every waking moment to climbing that ladder. So therefore, she didn't really want to leave me home with my father because needless to say, his behaviors were rather like erratic and sporadic and anything could happen at any moment. So my sister and brother kind of raised me. And my sister would live in Ocean City, Maryland every summer. And they would send me down there with her. And one day she said, hey, I'm going to the skate park to see this guy. She takes me to the skate park with her to see this guy. This guy is realistically probably just trying to bang my sister. So he gives me his skateboard. And literally, and the moment that board touched my hand, like I knew that this was what I was going to do for the rest of my life.
What was that feeling like?
It was like blinders on. I had tunnel vision. At that exact moment, schooling was not important. Plan B, a trait or an option, was not relevant. Like I knew that this was going to be the thing that I did, despite any and all adverse consequences that were ever going to come my way. And I did it. And that skateboard did for me later.
Lisa, he was when he was young, I think he said he was 7 or 12. He wanted to do skateboarding, so his mother bought him a skateboard. And his mother told him, what do you want me to put the skateboard? And he said, I want to sleep with it every night because I really want to become a skateboard rider. Let's go a little forward. He does become a skateboard rider. And he signed a contract with Nike. I think it was either $1 million or $2 million, the contract was. And he became a professional skateboard rider. He lost all that money from drugs, alcohol, women. He just lost it all. He also became one of the top skateboard riders, professional skateboard riders. He lost that because he was caught with drugs twice, and they kicked him off the tour of the skateboard championship. So they kicked him off, and then he went downhill from there.
On what I spent a lot of money and everything I cared about, which was drugs, took over with and shut this off. It just quieted my brain. And I did it. And through doing it,
skateboarding raised me. It put a safeguard around me. It made me feel welcome. It made me feel loved. It made me feel part of, and it taught me these core values in life that literally I've been blessed to build my structure on today, which is failure is not an option. The word no is unacceptable. You know, like skateboarders, we get a trick in our mind and we try it for days, weeks, months, years. And we're not like, oh, maybe. Like, it is, we do it until we can't do it anymore. And that ideology and mentality carried over into later on, I'm sure we'll get into, but like my sobriety, my recovery, and just adversities as a whole in life. You know, it put me around good people. It got me out of my house, and it gave me this drive and this like
purpose.
Yeah, that I didn't know was there or existed prior to.
So you just had this monomaniacal focus, blinders on skateboarding. There was no plan B since you were 7 years old.
Nothing mattered.
Nothing else mattered.
Women didn't matter, like riding a bike, picking up a baseball, like nothing mattered. All I thought about was skateboarding.
Was that in some way an escape from the chaos of your home where you could just dive into skating and just black out everything else?
Yeah. Because although, you know, I never blame my outcome on anyone else today, but at the time as a child, before I knew better, I wanted to find some kind of joy. And my mother did the best that she could with my brother and sister to provide that, and they did on a lot of days. But I came from a household where you never knew what was going to happen when my father walked through the door.
So skateboarding was the predictable thing that you could count on.
Yeah.
It was your
I could hang my hat on it.
You could hang your hat
I could rely on it. I could depend on it.
It was in your control too.
It was fucking everything that my father wasn't, if you think about it. And I don't want to make this like a poor me thing, because it's not.
But it was the context that laid the foundation for who you became.
It was the only thing that was really consistent in my life.
Yeah.
You know, the home that we slept in was not consistent because we never knew like if we were gonna have to run in the middle of the night.
Why was that?
Just because the way my father carried himself and the things that he did to us and to my mother.
There was like threat of violence all the time.
Yeah. Verbally, you know, sometimes physically, always mentally. And that, you know, I was kind of in a weird way being shifted and shaped and molded and almost groomed to become like the insane drug addict that I became later. Because ironically enough, everything that I did in my life was to prove a point of why I will never be him. Right? Like everything that I excelled in, whether it was skateboarding, whether it was like, you know, the Jackass stuff, the writing of the book stuff, like it was to prove why I would never be that bum of a man. And then ironically enough, I made him look like a walk on the park on a Sunday morning, right? Like it was like chump change. And
we end up manifesting our greatest fears.
Totally. And that's life, you know, and thank God that I went down the path that I did, because without that, I wouldn't be the child of God that I am today.
Yeah.
You know, I had to, it was a necessity for me to endure those rather uncomfortable and undesirable situations.
Yeah.
Because what I didn't know then that I know now was just me being divinely inconvenienced. That's all it is.
What was it like? Because you're skating, you're in love with the process. You know, you love this as a craft, but then, you know, at 14, 15, I believe you go professional.
No, I never turned pro while skating, which is the ironic thing about it. So I'm growing up in Baltimore, and I'm with another pro skater by the name of Bucky Lasik, who's a legend. And he took me under his wing, and he kind of recognized the talent and skill that I possessed. And he ultimately allowed me to enter into this amazing world. And I got sponsored by PAL, and I'm doing like, I'm sponsored by Gatorade, and I'm doing this, you know, promotional stuff for Gatorade. And right as I'm designing my proto shape and pro model board, like I'm designing prototype shapes of what would work, a little off the tail, a little more on the nose, a little less concave. Right as I'm in that process, I decided that the logical thing would be to pursue heroin. Like literally, like the key to the castle is in the lock, and I'm opening the door, and I'm like, yeah, nah, I'm cool.
It's some form of self-sabotage, right? Like you have the most bright career in front of you. Everything's lining up. What do you think made you go the other way?
What I believe wholeheartedly is that I was genetically predisposed, right? Like my father was a drug addict and alcoholic, and his father was a drug addict and alcoholic. My mother, my brother, my sister, and brother and sister were by a different man, right? None of them had an issue. Right. So that paired with the upbringing that I was experiencing, you know, selling drugs with my father, doing drugs with my father, going on drug runs with him as a child, watching him conduct his business, the strip joints, you know, it was ultimately like creating a recipe for just that. Fucking disaster.
That's crazy. So all those
and I didn't understand what I didn't know at the time, which is how progressive, cunning, baffling, and insidious addiction is. Right. It progressively gets worse.
So what age did the addiction begin?
Around 16.
Around 16.
It kicked in as I'm designing my pro model.
So you kind of leave skating behind. You go down this path of just constant drug abuse and all that. When did Jackass come about?
Jackass, I can't tell you the exact time or year, but how it happened, how it came to play was, I'm in a really bad way. I'm homeless. I'm in Baltimore. I'm shooting dope, and things just don't look good. My mother's kind of already slowly preparing for my death. I can't quite grasp this thing called recovery. And I avoid skateboarding like the plague, right? Like the woman that got away, the thing that hurt my heart the most. So anytime I see a skater, I cringe.
All that unused potential.
Yeah, right. All these things that could have been. And now I'm like deep in the depths of despair, of addiction, homeless, fucking, you know, eating out of trash cans, sleeping in abandoned houses. And so I avoid it like the fucking plague. But on very rare occasions when times get insanely tough, I'll stumble into the skate shop and I'll ask them for some money. And I'm telling you, I really avoid that like at all costs. This day was one of those really bad days. And I stumbled into the skate shop. I said, hey, I give them the sad story, and they want no part of it. And they're like, but hey, Bam was here yesterday, and he was doing a demo with the skate shop, and he asked if he saw you, and we said rarely. And he left his number, and he said, if you want to get clean and you want to move up to Pennsylvania with him, call him. So I take the number. A few days later, I call him. He answers, and that night I'm on a Greyhound bus from Baltimore to Pennsylvania. And he allows me to move into his house, and he puts me on the TV show Viva La Bam. And the rules are that like I can drink, I can do blow, but I can't do any opiates or anything like that. Because when I'm doing blow, I'm fine. I can talk, I can socially interact. When I'm doing heroin or any kind of pills in that form, I fall asleep in mid conversation. I try to steal your wallet in your car, shit like that. I'm not very controllable, and then I total things and break stuff. And he didn't understand addiction at the time, so that made sense to him, and I get that. So as long as I was able to abide by those rules, I could be on the show. I could have a credit card. I could have a car, and I could live in this really big house and just fucking produce when the cameras were on.
Yeah.
And that then led into Jackass.
And this whole time though, you're still constantly on drugs.
Yeah.
You kind of have to be for the kind of content.
Yeah. Well, which is what really helped me in a weird way, because I was the guy that would do any stunt, and I mean like any stunt, you name it, like I'm in. And they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So if you weigh the scales of justice here, prior to me ending up in this position to become a household name, to make good money and really prolong my addiction, if you look at it, I'm homeless. I'm sleeping in a shooting gallery in West Baltimore. I'm like letting men blow me for heroin. Like I'm living on this animalistic level. So now you want me to like pull my pants down and sit on a waffle maker, like game on. You know what I mean? Like it was very simple justification.
You were already living in the most extreme
depths of poverty and like
poverty, pain, suffering. That this was like, oh, I'll break a few bones.
Dying would have been a luxury then, right? So then now I'm thrust into this beautiful blessing of a position to do this. But if I put my hand up to do the stunts that nobody wants to do, odds are I'll break some bones. If I break some bones, I'm going to the hospital, and they're handing me a stack of scripts, which I'm allowed to do.
Holy shit!
Right?
So you literally consciously were destroying yourself and doing the craziest stuff so you could just get your addiction.
Yeah, totally.
That's insane.
And they'd be like, it's cool. And I'd actually get like a high five because I did well that day.
They were reaffirming that addiction because they were giving you praise for doing the crazy shit that you knew would end you up there.
For sure. Wow. Not knowingly, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like none of us.
You knew.
Yes, I did, but I was so disconnected from reality, I accepted to see it for what it was.
Yeah.
I lived in a really delusional world for a long time.
Yeah, I can get that. What was it like going from living on the streets, homeless, eating out of trash cans, to now you're a TV star?
Yeah.
Now you're like a household name. Like I was watching Jackass as a kid, and I loved that show. I was like, these guys are awesome. Well,
the thing is,
how was that like dealing with the fame and the notoriety coming from that contrast?
And I'm not trying to give a shameless plug here, but this conversation isn't nearly long enough to like encompass the whole reality of it. And that book that I told you about, The Streets of Baltimore, I can really get into the depths of the psychology of an addict and alcoholic. And during those times where most people were like, fuck, that's it. Like, and from outside perspectives, people thought that I really had a grasp on this thing called reality, which in itself is an acquired taste anyway. So, they, people thought that I had done things that would equate to success, happiness, maybe the dream of feeling. But in reality, I was never more fucked in my brain because I knew I was starting to understand the gravity and magnitude of my addiction and alcoholism. And no matter how much I loved what I had at that moment, it was only temporary, because my addiction was absolutely going to make me make terrible decisions, which would then allow this whole deal to crumble. And then I'm back where I started, which is even worse, because it's like, imagine having the taste of a very blessed, beautiful life and the high life of things, to then in the blink of an eye being thrusted back to Baltimore City with no money, trying to figure out where you're going to sleep tonight. Literally that quick. Because like,
is that what actually happened, or was that fear?
Oh, multiple times.
So they kicked you off the show?
Yeah, off the show and out of the house, because like, and rightfully so, if anyone was doing to me what I was doing, then at that time, I'd fucking kill you, right? Like, and it wasn't that I was a bad person that did bad things. Quite the contrary. And this is for all addicts and alcoholics. We're really good people that are diagnosed with a terrible disease that makes us make terrible decisions. My mother, the most important person to me in this world, couldn't love anyone more in my life. But God forbid I wake up ill and I need $10 for a bag of heroin, and she's standing between me and that bag. She must and will go. And I promise you, it's never personal. It's just business.
Wow.
Right? Like, that's kind of the depths that addiction takes me to. So like, I knew that like this was amazing. If I took advantage of the opportunity, that my future could be limitless and the sky's the limit. But I also knew that like I was going to continue to steal. I was going to continue to lie. I was going to continue to overdose. I was going to continue to like not deliver what I am hired to do. And that's what is the hardest. So therefore, like, I'd wake up sometimes and like they go through my bags and they find needles and they find I try to deliver a line and I'm just falling asleep in it. And Van would get so furious. He's like, get the fuck out. Go home. Go back to Baltimore. And home, there was no home. I didn't have an apartment waiting. Like I had burnt my bridges. Remember, he put me on a Greyhound and brought me while I was homeless. So my mother had like served a restraining on me years ago restraining order just to have me removed from her home. So it's just, and now I'm going back and I'm trying to couch surf off of like the guy that I was. Like, oh, you know, yeah, I'm flying out next week, all these. And that's why my book is called Dream Seller, because that's how I kind of
selling some bullshit
over and over just to acquire like $10 or a little bit of hope or trust or a sofa to sleep on or a car to drive or, you know, a woman to shack up with. Right. You know, that was kind of my MO. Yeah. So that was really tough because like when most people would be like, wow. And it was great. It was some of the best times I've had in my life were getting loaded, partying and fucking off with fellas in private jets here and the suites in Vegas, you know, the whole deal. But unfortunately, the party that I loved and lived in for so long at the end, like, no longer was a party and turned into like a full-blown hostage negotiation that I was not allowed to leave. And that's the reality for me. Yeah. So therefore, it's just fucking easier for me to stay sober.
Well, it's interesting because like your big break, you think, okay, this is your opportunity to finally get out of the circumstances you're in. But you just took the prison that you were in on the streets and took that into the limelight where it's even expanded further. And you're playing the character on steroids now.
Legit. Right?
You have to perform, do the craziest shit to get love, to get this fast food love from the world. And as you're getting more famous, as you're getting bigger and bigger, you're getting further and further away from yourself.
It's so funny you say that, and a lot of people don't recognize it, but the character that I was playing is literally a junkie's dream, right? The more outrageous my behaviors are, the more outlandish my antics become, the higher the ratings go, the more in demand I become, the more money I make, the more dope I can shoot. And it's just a fucking, it's a hamster wheel over and over and over that ultimately prolongs any kind of recovery. Right. Yeah, it allows me to deflect, justify, and minimize the severity of my addiction. So I can just continue to fucking, you know, people see me and they're like, oh shit, what's up, Knovak? And they hand me a bag of Coke or hand me some pills. You know, they know that I am that drug addict character that will do anything with anyone, wherever, for however long we can do it. So I use that to my benefit to continue to just get high. And ironically enough, the way that it's so beautiful looking back. And I always say, thank God, God is God and I'm not God, because I will fuck that job up miserably. But I was really being shaped and molded to this place where I was going to use that base that I built and followers that I've been blessed with to turn into a vessel or a conduit for people who may want help. Right. And
that's how it all played out.
Yeah. Like the worse I got, the bigger the blessing was about to become. So once the pain became great enough.
Once the pain became great enough. Because I believe you went to rehab 13 times.
Yeah, totally.
That's quite a few times, right? So talk to me about this process now. You're a big star now. You've had all the notoriety you want. You've had a lot of success, but you're still battling the same demons. You're in and out of rehab. It's just this almost hopeless fight at some point. You're like, I'm just on a treadmill. I don't know how the fuck to get off this thing. The 13th rehab, what was the click? What was the inflection point that had you go sober for good?
I literally come that hopeless cause, right? I go to a 12-step fellowship, and in there they talk about this this case that is inconstitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves or others is a hopeless situation, and that's what I was doing. It didn't matter if I could get honest with you. I just couldn't get honest with the most important person in the equation, which was me, right? Because I have this alcoholic brain that lies to me in my own voice and always makes me believe the unbelievable, right? And as an addict or an alcoholic, the job of that disease is to deflect, justify, and minimize the severity of the situation at hand. It keeps me very disconnected from reality, and long enough with that disconnection, the abnormal becomes the normal. So you and I, we stare at this painting and we see two completely different fucking things in the same room, same seat, two totally different perspectives.
Really, how can I pawn that for dope?
Yeah, I already figured out like who I need to call and what street corner I need to meet them on, and like who did it and who's gonna give me the most and how far is that from the fucking dope boys.
Everything to feed the addiction.
Yeah, and so what I do, who I do it with, and where we do it all revolves around the getting and using and finding ways and means to just acquire one more, because that's what my brain tells me, right? I just need one more, and then tomorrow we're gonna get right. Yeah. And I believe when I say like tomorrow is the day, I believe it.
How many times did you say that?
I've lost count, but then tomorrow's gonna be the day. I just got to get right now. And I get right now. And then I wake up tomorrow and I repeat yesterday's actions. And I'm stuck in Groundhog's Day for 21 years. Right. So now I have this brain that lies to me. So it's not like your voice appears in my brain. You're like, oh, Knovak, you've been sober 10 years. You can have a glass of wine. And I'm like, fuck you, stranger danger. It's my voice in my head that tells me you've been sober over 10 years. Everything that brought you into recovery, right? The lack of finance, the lack of romance, the lack of money, the lack of opportunity, the lack of business, I have in abundance. And so those very same things that created the pain, which provided the willingness to do what I'd never done, which is reach out and ask for help, if I'm not careful, can be the very same things that take me back out, because my brain will tell me you're different. Life is different. You've acquired the knowledge. Ignorance is no longer bliss, right? Like you can overcome these obstacles. You can catch it before it gets that bad. You're going to $1,000 dinner tonight. Why wouldn't you have a glass of wine with it? Like the people in my life today have never really even seen me high. My life is really different. And so honestly, the truth of the matter is the longer I stay sober, the more dangerous it becomes. It's easy for me to fucking lock in, 10 days sober. I'm fresh out of detox. I'm still shaking. I have a blanket wrapped around me and I can't sleep because the pain is still great enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. But when things are good again, that's when the devil comes back.
Yeah.
Right? But how did you have that? You're 10 years sober now. Yeah. Why the 13th trip to rehab? What was the moment?
It's funny that you asked that. This last time I went to rehab, and I remember we were filming Viva La Bam, and we'd finish filming, and the cast and the crew, we'd all go to the pub and we drank. And I, a lot of days, would go to like an AA meeting first, and then I would go meet everyone at the pub. And I remember Bam saying to me, he's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? We finished filming for the day, you go to an AA meeting, and then you come get fucked up with us. And I always knew within that one of two things were going to happen, because I'm an intelligent individual. I have the wherewithal to understand that, like, living on the streets with a needle hanging out of my arm was not the right way to go. That either I was going to get sober or I was going to die in the process of trying to by an overdose, right? Like I wasn't happy with just being a fucking drug addict, alcoholic the rest of my life. Like I knew that that wasn't what it was for. I end up going to that last treatment center and I get out, number 13, and I get out and I have about 3 or 4 months sober right now. And people are like, whoa, you actually like really might do this. Like this might be something that sticks. And I see Bam and he goes, why the fuck treatment center number 13? He's like, why not 12, 10, 9, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. Why 13? He said, what, did you have like a meeting with God? And I didn't tell him because he wasn't in the place to grasp it. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I actually did. I did. And I did. And what happened was nothing changed from treatment center number 1 to number 13. The information or rhetoric that they delivered to me was just recycled. It came at different places, by different faces and different voices. What changed was me. I matured. I was evolving. I had failed so many times that how I got to where I'm at today is simply processed through elimination, but backwards, meaning that I failed so miserably bad for so long and everything I tried. Ultimately, the last thing I tried was the first thing that worked. And it was the thing that they had been suggesting the whole time.
Which was?
Simply fucking, the common denominator in my problems are me.
Yes.
If I get the fuck out of my way, I might stand a chance. I can't do this thing alone. He can. So let him. The drinking and the drugging was not my problem at all. And the longer that I thought that it was my problem that was causing my demise, the more I was going to continue to fail.
What was the root of the problem?
Exactly. I was fighting the wrong opponent, which is why I continued to lose for so fucking long. I was ignorant to the reality of my situation because I refused to give my addiction the time, attention, and respect it deserves. Because I was too smart for my own fucking good,
right.
Which is the problem with most addicts now. Actually, the majority, I'd say 99.9% of us, is we don't get to where we're at because we took the short bus to school. Quite the contrary. I got to where I was at because I was too smart for my own fucking good. And I would land in a seat in a treatment center that literally had the ability to save my life, and I'd outthink myself right out of it. I'd see me do it more times than I cared to remember. So ultimately, at the end, my higher power, I'm easily distracted. I'm an accessories whore. I'm easily distracted by money, property, prestige, and pussy get me every time. Always diverts me from my primary purpose, which is simply to just make it through another day sober, be a really good human being, and help out my brothers and sisters, which are God's children, right? But goddamn it, let a fat ass, let a fucking nice car or a big paycheck pass me, and I'm
the animal crazy.
Yeah, totally.
Right? They just overcharge you and take you out of your purpose.
For sure. And I recognize that now. Like, ignorance is no longer bliss. And so now I can't really stay stuck on stupid as long as I'd like to.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know.
Yeah, but you said something like, I'm curious, were the other rehab stints, did you develop a connection with God at any of those, or was it the 13th one where you actually surrendered and started building this faith?
So that's where this comes into play, right? Knowing that I'm easily distracted by outside activities, I never give my addiction the respect the time it deserves. My higher power saw fit to remove me from every distraction. So I walk into that 13th treatment center. Literally all that I own to my name is 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, 1 stick of deodorant. It fits into this bag that doubles as my pillow because I'm like a homeless dope fiend. A needle, a spoon, and a restraining order. And a passport. I had a passport. I was able to hold on to a passport. But that's all that I had.
Yeah.
Everyone, and I mean everyone in my life, felt it was the best to love me from a distance. No one was looking for me. No one was waiting on me. Everyone just said, we want to know how you're doing.
Yeah.
My mother had bought me a plot at this point. People had taken life insurance policies out on me.
No way.
I was that hopeless case that was incapable of being honest with myself or others. Therefore, people weren't saying if he's going to die, but like when. People were projecting that outcome, including myself. And I end up in this facility and I don't want to be there, but I have nowhere else to go, right? I don't want to do this AA 12-step shit, but they're the only fucking weirdos that are welcoming me. They're the only ones that are happy to see me. And to make matters worse, they're not even giving me $10. So like by force or by choice, I'm stuck with these fucking weird cult-like people. I'm like, you know what? I have nothing but time, right? Therefore, let's do it. I want to kill myself. I want to fucking die so bad, but I'm just like terrified to hurt myself in the process. Oh yeah. And I've been terrible at suicide for a long time because I kept waking up. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just run it. Let's run it. And I didn't know if I was going to stay sober. I really didn't. I did not know if I was going to stay sober. What I did know is I just wanted the pain to stop. So now I'm starting to give it the attention and respect it deserves. I'm starting to acquire some information and knowledge. And they say, hey, Mr. Novak, you know, the heroin that you continue to stick into your arm every day, the Xanax that you eat, the methadone that you swallow, the cocaine that you sniff, that's not your problem. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? I've given it everything. I've given it my career. I've given it my homes. I've given it my women. I give it my sexuality. I give it whatever it asks for. And they're like, yeah, you're a fucking idiot. That is not the problem. That's actually the solution. It's the answer. It's the right thing in the situation. It's the thing that makes you whole. It's not the problem. It's the solution. The problem is your thinking, your attitude, and your behavior. If you take this glass of wine and you just sit it down and you go to a treatment center for 30 days, yes, you've removed it from your life for 30 days, but you get out of treatment and you just pick it back up. Of course, it's not a question of if, but when you pick it back up, because all you've done is sit it down, meaning the same addict, the same alcoholic will drink or drug again because you have not worked on the problem, which is the thinking, right? So I had to go to a place that created a big enough gap between me and the last needle that I shot in my arm to take a look at my life to see it for what it really was and work on the problem, right? Because like
the magic that we're looking for is in the work we're avoiding.
And I avoided that like the plague, man. I wanted no part of that.
Right.
It didn't fit into my timeline or my narrative. I was a busy man. I had places to go, people to see, women to fuck, and because of that, the answer continued to be a needle in my arm. So if drugs are the answer, what the fuck is the question?
Yeah, what's the void?
Yeah. So then I start to like learn and understand the reality of my situation. I see that, whoa, no wonder I keep getting beat so bad. by my addiction because I refuse to give it the respect it deserves.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're fighting Mike Tyson in his prime, if you're going to fight Mike Tyson in his prime, you're not just going to get a trainer and work out on Sunday mornings for 2 hours. You are going to eat, breathe, sleep, and live, right, that training to endure 12 rounds with the biggest beast in the world. And that's kind of the same thing with recovery or addiction.
You're too casual with it.
Yeah, maybe I'd show up for a meeting once a week if like some fucking really beautiful women would be there, or if it fit the time that I woke up. I was not treating it like this is life or death.
And it was the whole time.
The whole time.
So when you say like with addiction, I feel like using drugs, and people do this on micro levels that aren't as extreme all the time. We numb ourselves with distractions, with our phones, with substances. But I feel like the substances we use are because of a lack of substance within us.
Absolutely.
Right. So the lack of substance in our life, of purpose, of health, of core good relationships, that lack of substance creates this void, this vacuum. And then that vacuum creates so much pain that we look for things to numb that pain. Right. And so until we address that void within ourselves, we're always going to look for these fast food solutions that aren't good for us to take that away.
A temporary solution for a permanent problem, a Band-Aid on a gunshot, if you will.
Exactly.
And that's, for years, I was filling this internal void with an external solution.
Yes.
Right. And it just never held. It didn't stand the test of time. Because ultimately what I was doing, we all have our vices, right? Like don't fucking corner me into this place where, I'm not an addict, I'm not an alcoholic, there's nothing for me to see or hear here. Sex, food, porn, gambling, dieting, working out, social media. We all have these vices. And that's just the solution. It's the behaviors. And what it allows me to do is avoid me from having to look at me. That's really what it is.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is like, I believe that we're all addicts. If you look at everything underneath, why do humans pursue what they pursue? It's all for an emotional payoff, for chemicals.
It's an instant gratification.
We want dopamine, we want serotonin, and we want oxytocin.
And I need it like yesterday.
Yeah. And then some people are like, what's the fastest path? I just need it now.
Yeah.
As you rebuild your life and you build it in a healthy, sustainable way where you have fulfillment and joy and peace, you're finding things in life that we're still addicted to that dopamine and oxytocin, but you're using that towards healthy, productive goals. You're in the right relationships to give you safety, love, and that oxytocin that actually rejuvenates you. And so we're all addicted to the same chemicals. We all want the same end state emotions, but we just get lost on these paths trying to find these shortcuts to them because we don't know how to get them.
Yeah. And what are the intentions behind the behaviors?
That's right.
Like what are my intentions? What it comes down to. So where I get to today, because again, the longer I'm sober, the more successful I've been blessed to be, and the more relationships and connections I have, the things. Ultimately, I need to remind myself to just think less and do more. I just need to think less and do more, because I'll start thinking that I am the one that should take credit for these amazing things that are happening in my life, right? And now the ego is in full effect. And all ego for me is just easing God out. And then Brandon becomes Brandon's God.
Easing God out.
Yeah. And that's what recovery is, right? Because the core of my disease is that I'm selfish and I'm self-centered, meaning that everything in my life is me. And 2 seconds for you, but only if it's going to benefit me, right? It's all transactional, and it has to benefit the way that I feel and the outcomes that I'm projecting that I deserve. I. The definition of recovery is just to think a little bit less about me and a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
The opposite of addiction is connection. Therefore, community, like family, is vital. I can't do this alone. So now, the longer I stay sober, the more successful I've been blessed to be, the more that I think that I'll know on any given day, which means I'm projecting outcomes for you. Right now, I've just placed an expectation on you. All I've done in placing this expectation on you is set myself up for an unfulfilled resentment, because you will not live up to my expectations. I don't even live up to my own fucking expectations. So the moment that you do what I don't think you should do, I'm now immediately resentful at you. And in my program, resentments are the #1 offender that will take an addict or an alcoholic to a drink or a drug.
I like the distinction we made here with ego and God.
Yeah.
I believe this is the dichotomy of life. And when we're in our egos, everything is about us. We feel separate.
Us meaning me.
Us meaning me.
Yeah, there is no us. It's fucking me.
Not I, me.
It's me.
But that's the thing is, when we're in our ego, we feel separate.
Yes.
We're disconnected from a higher power.
100%.
We're disconnected from others because we're resenting them.
Yep.
We're judging them.
Yep. I'm not getting what I want. I don't believe you respect me as I should be respected.
Absolutely. And so we're completely lost in our own worlds, where we're disconnected from the truth.
Yes.
That we are all connected and that we're not alone. And that feeling of loneliness is so deeply penetrating to the soul. You feel like it's hopeless, but you stay there because you're in the ego. And I think everyone goes through different journeys on the spiritual route. I think there's a lot of paths to God. For sure. Right? There's different religions, there's individual spiritual paths, there's going through immense suffering, which forces you to surrender.
I believe God is everything.
Yes.
I believe God is a bag of heroin. People are saying, what the fuck is wrong with
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, but without me going to the places that I went via drugs and alcohol, I would not be the child of God that I am today.
Well, God presented you with people and circumstances to help you evolve into the truth, into the higher
100%.
That you are God. You are connected to God.
Totally.
All his children.
I am his son.
You are a son, yeah. And so I'm curious, how does that, because I think some people listening that, have gone down their spiritual path, like, yes, I get it. Some people are listening like, for sure, God is like, what the hell is God? Like, what is, they might just, this might not connect with them, but on a practical level.
And the funny thing is, humanity is the only fucking species that has the audacity to think that we understand what God's will is.
It's
so fucking great and powerful. And then, look, to you listeners, this is just my opinion, and you're talking to a guy that did not graduate high school, that got his GED in the penitentiary. Right? Like, I'm not professing to be this fucking scholarly, knowledgeable individual. No. I'm just the guy that's had a few experiences that knows what I believe works best for me today, but tomorrow that could completely change.
Yeah.
Depending on what God presents to me. But I practice a spirituality that where's my spirituality if I judge your spirituality? Straight up. I was in jail and I fasted with the Muslims. I went to Greece and been baptized by these Greek monks at Mount Athos, which is like a holy mountain. I lived there for 2 weeks and just fucking chanted with the Gregorian monks. I'm down for whatever, man. I need all the help I can get. I love,
I hope that everyone finds God in this world. I hope that everyone does find that. But the funny part about religion, I think for me, is, you've got Buddhists, you've got Christians, you've got Muslims, whatever it may be. We're all trying to go to the same destination, which is to arrive with God.
Yes.
But someone's in a Toyota, someone's in a Nissan, someone's in a Ferrari, and we're talking about wheels and paint jobs.
Yeah.
We're comparing in language which can only be expressed in energy.
Yeah.
And I don't care what vessel you achieve the relationship with God through, but you can tell when someone has it or not.
For sure.
And so who cares about who was the prophet who took down the commandments? It doesn't matter. It's like, are you connected to your higher creator, and are you living a life that is creating a beautiful existence for yourself and others?
And it's all perspective. I couldn't agree with everything you said anymore. And the beautiful thing about that is everything is perspective, right? And we are all God's children, brothers and sisters. And I need the ones that are atheists, the ones that don't believe, the ones that say, fuck God, he fucked me. Those are equally as important as they are to my brothers and sisters who I walk this journey with. And the reason why is because I need thieves, I need liars, I need killers to prove to me why I don't want to be a thief or a liar or a killer, right? It's like, what's love without sadness? What's happiness without joy? What's rain without sunshine? I need those people to fucking cut me off and give me the finger and say, fuck you, go kill yourself. So I can reiterate to myself, thank God I'm not in that place. And it kind of pushes me to be a better human being, right?
What are some of the things you did? Because, whether people are struggling with real deep addiction, or they're just, struggling with self-sabotaging vices that are preventing them from stepping into their full power, because being sober is the beginning, right? It's now you have a more or less a bit of a blank slate where you can create from that place now, because you're able
Which is really difficult to navigate.
Right now you rebuild yourself.
And I'm newly sober. And right in the beginning, I got high to change the way I felt, right? I got high because I like the effect produced from drinks or drugs. And now I'm sober and I'm full with the things that we all have the most of and know the least about, which are fucking emotions, right? Now, how do I endure that? Feeling like a stranger in my own skin, trying to figure out who the fuck let me in and why, without reverting back to what I always know brings peace and comfort.
Some of the tactical things that you did, maybe some mindset things that you had to shift, some habits, environment changes. What were the things that you did that you feel like were the most important for rebuilding yourself?
And this is all retrospect. Now it's very clear for me to see, but early on in the beginning stages, I simply, what I did first was I talked less. Because I would usually get sober and I would scream it from the fucking rooftop, and I'd call all my loved ones and say, this is it. I'm going to be this man. I'm going to be this son. I'm going to be this employee. I'm going to be this husband. I'm never going to drink. I'm never going to drug again. And I would always repeat those behaviors. So this last time, for the first time, right, the last thing I tried, the first thing that worked was I stopped talking and I just started walking. And then ultimately what happened was my walk started to become my talk, because my behaviors were changing. When my behaviors were changing, the outcomes were changing. And then when the outcomes were changing, the beliefs were changing, right? I couldn't think my way into a better way of life, because remember, the thinking is the problem. I didn't understand that. So I had to surround myself with like-minded people, right? Power in numbers, opposite of addiction is connection. I had to surround myself with like-minded people that genuinely had my best interest at heart. I had a sponsor, I had a mentor, I was working with 12 steps, I was attending 12-step meetings, and I really submerged myself in the culture. And in doing that, all of a sudden, the pain started to lessen, right? My perspective on what I thought was a dark, bleak life that was never going to get any better started to become a little brighter. And then I started to live this life that I love so much that I believe staying sober was worth. Right? So it all happened backwards. The way that I was wired, the way that I lived, the way that I conducted business prior to sobriety was to fight was to win. To fight was to survive. To fight was to make it through another fucking day. And then I walked into sobriety. I was blessed with this new life, and he told me to fight is to lose. To fight is to die. To fight is to relapse. So at that very moment, I realized I had to admit complete defeat in order to secure the ultimate victory, which was the exact opposite approach that I had fucking, lived my life by for 20 years.
Wow.
It was a mind fuck.
That's powerful. Something I am pulling from this, reading between the lines too, is, you had great friends before that loved you, I'm sure,
yes,
but they were enabling the same behaviors. You were very much a product of the environment you were in. In sobriety, you have a new group of friends because you can't go back to that lifestyle. But I see a big contrast, because you had to perform so much. You had to be this very curated character to get love and be accepted by people. Like, if you're going to do the craziest stunts, do the most drugs, be the craziest version of you. Now you're surrounded by people that actually want to take care of your soul. They actually just love you for you, right? You don't have to pretend. You don't have to perform. Like, we just love you.
Yeah.
And that true comfort and love and depth, I think, is what we're all craving,
yes,
right? And by surrounding yourself with that people, you no longer had to be this character to survive. Now it was okay to be yourself.
Which, if we go back to the beginning, what we started talking about when we started this talk, is that's all that I wanted was security and stability. That's all that I ever wanted.
Oh my gosh.
That's all that I was in search of. I wanted to know what house I was going to be in next week, next month. I wanted to know that I was going to sleep in a bed with clean sheets and a pillow. And I wanted to know that I was going to open the same refrigerator for the next month. And those were things that I hadn't had in my life for quite some time. Again, I was so disconnected from this thing called reality.
Wow.
And then ultimately I ended up moving into a sober living house after I completed a 90-day treatment center. And they got me a job washing dishes for $6 an hour. And I had heard about that word humility, but I had never experienced or practiced it. And at the time when I was given this job, my alcoholic brain was telling me that at the very least I should have been president of the United States. At the very least, not busting suds at a diner for $6 an hour under the table after being a skater, being in movies and books that were like extremely successful. What I didn't know then that I know now is that job was like one of the biggest foundational blocks in my life, and it taught me how to live life. And I credit largely in part who I am today because of that job that I believe was so fucking beneath me.
Do you feel today, going through all this, after all the trials and tribulations today, if you answer honestly, do you feel enough?
I'd say 4 days out of the week I do. And that's a lot fucking better than it was.
I love it.
Straight up, man. Because on any given day, I wake up in one of two modes. Don't you know who the fuck I am? Or please, God, don't ask me who I am.
Yeah, the ego says, the ego says two things. I am the GOAT, and am I even worthy of love?
Legit.
It's such a stark contrast, right? It's like,
yeah.
And
that's why I start my day on my knees every morning.
Yes.
Right? And I end my day on my knees. And the only thing that like removes me from that really purgatory, scary place to live in is my connection with my higher power. And that is everything to me. I've done none of this. I take no credit for any of it. I simply was blessed to be put in a position to play a very small part in a much bigger picture.
It's a beautiful journey, dude, because I look at life a lot of times like a slingshot. And the further you're pulled back, you have more kinetic energy, the further you can launch forward if you learn to alchemize those tribulations into positive things. And all these things were building your character, and God put you through hell so that you could have this capacity for light to then become a vessel for his message.
And thank God I had no idea what the plan was, because I would have fucked it up.
That's good.
You know what I mean? Like, mark my words. That's what I do. Left to my own devices, I will put this whole beautiful place into a needle and stick it right in my arm. That's just the way that I was wired. And that's the definition of a spiritual experience. The definition of a spiritual experience is simply a psychic change, right? Meaning that I, Brandon Knovak, with over 10 years sober, no longer look, think, act, but more importantly, react the way that I did when I walked into that 13th inpatient treatment center wondering if I was going to make it through the night. And that's why I've been able to consistently show up. It's easy to show up when times are great, money's overflowing from the accounts, women are swinging from the chandeliers. Like, that's just what I do. I show up. But let me show up when my mother has to go to rehab, when my nephew relapses, when I have to split away from business partners, when I just don't know if I can take another phone call today, and everything in me says just don't. Like, that's when you show up, right? That's when it matters. That's where God's supposed to work. And when I say God, I don't want to discourage anybody out there like fuck, because God's a heavy word. I don't know what God is. I have no clue if it's a man in the sky with a robe and a beard, or the beach or the ocean. I just know that it's not me. It's a power greater than myself that does for me what I was incapable of doing for myself for a long time. Yeah. You know, so I like to keep it simple.
I like that a lot, man. Everyone listening, no matter what stage of life they're in, they want to live a more fulfilling, joyful life, right? Everyone wants that. And you've had to go through some pretty big battles to figure out how to do that for yourself, right? So if you had to leave a message for everyone listening to help them just live a more fulfilling, lasting, happy life, what would you want to share with them?
Man, it's so easy. I think that's why we miss it. And it's just to think less and do more. Because I outthink myself out of doing anything good for myself or others. Because like, it might inconvenience my day, right? It might not fit into my narrative of what I think the projected outcome should look like. I fuck it up. Just be kind to others. Do something good for someone. Don't overcomplicate a simple process.
That's a damn good answer, man. Well, dude, I appreciate it. Thank you for being so fucking raw and honest.
This was fun, man.
This is a really good conversation, and I think people resonate with. But yeah, it's incredible, man. For me, it's kind of a stamp on the thing is you can literally go through hell. Doesn't matter what conditions you were brought up in. Doesn't matter how many L's you've taken in life, or the excruciating pain, or the shame, guilt, anything you might carry around. You can always recreate yourself. You can always be redeemed. And as soon as you're willing to commit to that life that you want, as soon as you're willing to surrender and realize you can't do it alone, and you're willing to put everything you have into creating that, you can do and be anything you want in this life, and it's never too late. And I think your story is just a really inspiring example of that.
1,000,000%, right? Like, literally, if I wanted to become a brain surgeon, I could become a brain surgeon for a fact, for an absolute fact. I don't doubt that in any part of my body. I just have to appropriate and delegate the time and give it the, like, really, like, anything's possible.
Yeah.
Mentality creates reality, straight up, like, for a fact. I've seen it in my own life, and I believe in blessings because I am one, right? Like, so you can't tell me, and the majority of the people that I walk with can also share the same testament, right? And so it's like, yeah, I know that anything's possible provided I just stay out of my way. And the funny thing about it is I loved drugs and alcohol so much. I still love them so much. The only difference is today I don't do them. I'm still just as submerged with them, but I'm provided like beautiful, right? My poison has become my medicine, and I now like literally have devoted my life to helping people who are where I once was. So if there's any kind of issue with drugs or alcohol, call me directly at 610-314-6747. I have 2 facilities that I'm at every day. I run lectures at both of those programs, and I have a handful of sober livings that I'm deeply involved in. I am passionate about because I fucking believe in it, and I can see the amazing things that can come from it, provided you just kind of change your perspective on it.
statistics state, theoretical evidence dictate.
Well, that was it. So, my dog interrupted the end of that. Sorry about that, but my dog.
So think of it as like
interrupted
a TV app.
and that was the end. Thank you for everyone for enjoying me, joining me, and I'll be back again soon. I'm going to do more addiction videos and talk about addiction and talk about my life. Hopefully soon. It'll be soon, though. Probably Thursday I'll be back again. Thank you all. God bless you all. And do the right thing, everyone. Be kind. Be generous. No more heat. Try stopping with the heat. All right. Have a good night, everyone.